Organ Donation Week is a yearly campaign that helps raise awareness. Last year, the week saw 34,000 people join the NHS organ donation register, but for many families, this topic is on their mind every day of the year. Lorna Tong's life was saved by her husband, who helped her jump the queue by donating part of his own liver.
So I was diagnosed when I was pregnant with my oldest son, who's 11. I woke up one morning with pain really in my abdomen and thought I'd gone into early labour. So I went into hospital, and over the course of a few days they found that I'd got this autoimmune disease called primary sclerosing cholangitis. And at that point they made us aware that I may one day need a transplant, but they couldn't tell us when. And they couldn't really give us any idea how the disease may progress, because it's very different and very individual for different people. So some people it can happen quite quickly, and for others it can happen over a long time and may never need a transplant. So I had a good 10 years really of no problems, apart from when I was pregnant with my next two children. So I had Theo and Lily prematurely at 30 weeks.
Lorna had to get the diagnosis before getting on the transplant list.
And in January I started to lose weight. We weren't really sure why I was losing weight. And we started to do a number of investigations, or the team in York started to do a number of investigations. And at that time it wasn't really obvious what was causing it. And then in May last year I got sepsis, and that was the start of the infections really. And from May onwards I seemed to get infection after infection, and they were giving me repeated antibiotics, but I still seemed to be getting the infections. So PSC causes narrowing within the biliary tree, which is inside the liver, and as a result the bile can't flow through the liver, so the blocking up of the bile causes the infections within the liver. And at the moment, once you get to that point, there's not really a great deal else they can do. They decided that the best course forward was to put me on the transplant list. When I was first diagnosed, James's mum said, "I'm sure James is A positive," which is the blood group I was. So we always had that in the back of our minds. But when I first went on the transplant list, we weren't sure. There was lots of questions about who would look after the children. Then we started to investigate whether James was a match. Our life, as we knew it, was sort of slowly kind of deteriorating, and I was becoming less and less able of doing all the things that I would normally do.
For over a decade, her diagnosis didn't really affect her life.
Waiting on the transplant list is really difficult anyway. So you go on the list and you build it up, you have all of these meetings, you go in for a full assessment, and then you get the phone call and they say, right, we're going to put you on the list today. And you almost expect something to change, but actually nothing changes, because it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get a phone call the next day. It could be weeks, it could be months, and some people wait years for a transplant, for a match to become available. And some people don't make it to transplant. I mean, people die every day waiting for a transplant.
In a desperate bid to skip the waiting list, Lorna's husband Jack offered his own liver. Others aren't always so lucky, something Lorna experienced firsthand earlier this year when a friend who was also on the waiting list died while waiting for a transplant.
Everywhere you go, you're thinking, how far away is this from home? Will I be able to get back in time to get to the hospital if I get a call? So life, you're just waiting really.
It was very difficult watching her get more ill and all the time, and having to she's very stoic, so having to persuade her that she was really ill and needed to go to hospital was difficult. Waiting, it was difficult because, as Lorna said, none of us could book a holiday, and we just had to wait and see what happened. When we found James was a match, we thought it was going to happen. Well, we knew it was going to happen a lot quicker than it would have done, but it was really hard watching her get worse and worse. And I guess it was hard for us because we had to look after the children more and more, and we're not getting any younger, so it wasn't easy. Oh, it's changed it completely. Lorna was really poorly, and we were having to help out a lot of the time, and now that's changed. Just seeing her much better, and it's just turned her life around, really.
Lorna was lucky as she was able to have found a match so close to home and so fast. Others aren't always this lucky. That's why Organ Donation Week is so important to those who are on the transplant list, as it is quite literally life and death. Charlie Wainwright, That's TV.